Okay, so on May the 4th, I finished my. I don't know if playthrough is quite the right word for a visual novel like Fate Stay Night, so I guess my read through. Wait, sorry, I wasn't trying to. I was just leaning forward to clear my throat, which I don't even know why I did that, not just standing up. I wasn't trying to give a weird close up on my face. But, anyways, point. So it's been about two and a half ish, maybe 3 weeks since I finished reading the entire VN. And while I've done individual videos on the various routes, I talked about the Fate route, I talked about UBW, I talked about Heaven's Feel. Now I want to kind of give my final, not my final, I want to say my parting thoughts on the VN. I don't want to say final because, of course, my opinion is always subject to change. Maybe a few years down the road, I'll be thinking about it and be like, you know what? Maybe I was too hard on Sakura. I've actually come around to her character a lot more the more that I've thought about it. Or maybe in a few years, I'll be like, there's parts of Unlimited Blade Works that actually just don't hold up quite as well as I thought they did when I first read it. So, of course, my thoughts are always subject to change as long as I have a brain that's thinking. But for right now, I would say these are my parting thoughts now that I've finished the VN and have had some time to sleep on it. So one of the first things I want to say is to just talk about my time. I believe my final time in total was 63 and a half hours. That was reading all three routes, getting all the bad endings, just getting every ending. The bad endings, true endings, normal endings, and then watching the Fate route epilogue. The Fate route took me about 25 hours. UBW was about 17 and a half, and then Heaven's Feel was 21. So from reading the VN, to me, there's four major themes, or I guess four major things that it is about, whether you would call them themes, because some of them are kind of like plot points, or I guess goals. They're all very similar things, but not quite all the same. So to me, number one thing that Fate Stay Night is about is just telling the story of the Fifth Holy Grail War. And about, here's a bunch of cool legends, mythological characters, doing cool shit and fighting each other and not knowing who is who. And then it's like once you kind of know someone who once you've learned who someone is in a previous route, their identity is not really a secret to you anymore. So even if it's not fully revealed, like I don't remember if there's a point in UBW where they just full on say Saber is King Arthur. But yeah, it's not really portrayed as a mystery anymore because the reader knows, so the reader doesn't really care. They just want to see, like, cool, I know who you are, now let me see you do cool shit. But that's the first thing, is like actually telling the story of this war and how it unfolds. In my opinion, Unlimited Blade Works does that the best. That route to me is the one that is mostly about, let's tell a story where there's a lot of strategy, there's a lot of backstabbing, there's a lot of intrigue. There is cool hype shit happening constantly. I remember, like, when I was doing my videos on the three routes, the Fate route, I was like, yeah, like, here's some of my favorite fight scenes, and I listed a few. With Heaven's Feel, it was basically the fights in the climax, plus Sparks Liner High, which, I mean, it's in the climax, but it's a bad ending, so I'll count it slightly separately. And Unlimited Blade Works is like, oh, here's pretty much all of them, because the fights in UBW are fucking impeccable. The Fate route, I would say, does it the second best. It really plays up the mystery of it, of we don't know who the fuck these people are, thus we don't know what they're capable of. And there's, in the Dean anime, there's this song, I don't remember what it's called, it's like Unmei no Yoru, I believe is what it's called, something very close to that. It's the to me, that song is perfect. It perfectly encapsulates the mystery and the mysticism of the Fate route of, I don't know who's who, I don't know who's capable of what, I don't know what the fuck is going on, all I know is I'm surrounded by mythological people doing magical shit, and it's cool. And I really fucking love that track. There'll be a part later where I talk about like my favorite songs from Fate Stay Night. That is not on there because it's only in the anime and not in the VN. But I have to shout it out because aside from my number one song, that's probably my favorite. Even then, it might beat my number one song, but like we'll get to that when we get to that. And then you get to Heaven's Feel, which I think is easily the worst when telling its Grail War because it's the whole kind of point of Heaven's Feel is this is a Grail war that goes very wrong very fast. Some characters like Lancer and Caster and Kuzuki are just dead really fucking quick. They don't get a chance to do much. Saber is sidelined for a lot of the route. It's... And like I was even saying in my Heaven's Feel video, with the exception of some fights mostly near the climax, I don't think the action is actually that good in Heaven's Feel. I think it's fine. Now, granted, again, that's not what Heaven's Feel is really trying to do. I understand that. But when I look at it, it's like, from this... If this is one of the main things that Fate Stay Night is trying to do across all three routes, this is the one where it's just not as strong. But transitioning into one of the things Heaven's Feel does impeccably well is telling a tragedy. The Holy Grail is this artifact that can grant a wish. And there are these people whose lives have been fucked up irrevocably as a result of this thing's existence, and their families trying to get it. You have Shiro surviving the fire, and how his life was completely turned upside down. And he's always had this sense of survivor's guilt, while also... Sorry, brain stop for a second. I believe I said this in my Fate Route video, and I think I've talked about it a bit in the others as well. To me, there's three things that motivate Shiro. There is this survivor's guilt of being the only person to get out of the fire. There is this gratitude to Kiritsugu for saving him. And on top of that gratitude, also turning it into a responsibility of, if this man saved me, and his dream is to help people, I now have to carry that forward. I have to carry that weight. And the third would be his own just kind of childlike belief of what a superhero is supposed to be and what that means. And funny enough, I think each of the three routes, like, they do touch upon them, but I think Shiro in each route emphasizes a different aspect. I know I was going to be talking about the tragedy, but since I'm talking about Shiro and his tragedy, that's another one of the things that Fate Stay Night is really about, is telling the story of Shiro Emiya. So I guess I'm going to focus on that one a bit more now, and then get into the tragedy a little bit later, so we'll just put a pin. The Fate route to me is more about his survivor's guilt. Specifically the scene in the church with Kirei, where he sees the bodies of the other orphans who really didn't get saved. Unlimited Blade Works, to me, is kind of... With Unlimited Blade Works and Heaven's Feel, it's actually kind of harder. Because there's part of me that wants to say Unlimited Blade Works is more about the debt he owes to Kiritsugu. Because I feel like it felt like there was a really big emphasis on that, especially in his conversation fight with Archer. But Heaven's Feel, when they really get into like the relationship with Ilya and how, well, Ilya is Kiritsugu's daughter, you're his adopted son. You kind of replaced her in his life. That wasn't Kiritsugu's intention, but it's kind of how it worked out. And as the heir of the Emiya family, you owe a debt to this girl. So in a way, Heaven's Feel also has a really big emphasis, on the Kiritsugu portion. But looking at the Shiro's own belief of what a superhero is, again, in his conversation with Archer, there's that part where or essentially what Archer is trying to say is, even your belief is fake. Even your belief is from someone else. Your ideal comes from Kiritsugu. It's not yours. And Shiro essentially saying, who gives a fuck? It became mine anyways. And during their fight, Archer kind of getting that spark back. And so to me, seeing that, I'm like, okay, but it does also emphasize the fact that this is something Shiro genuinely believes. And by the end, Shiro is able to, at least my understanding of the true ending, Shiro is able to become a hero. He is going out into the world. He is helping people. But he's not becoming Archer. Because he's anchored enough, especially with his relationship with Rin, and also seeing this is what happens if I stray from my path. I'm not going to let that happen. But this is still my belief and my ideal. But then you also get into Heaven's Feel, where his belief is tested the most. but I say it's... I feel like I would say Heaven's Feel tries to test his belief more than Limited Blade Works does. Mostly because in Limited Blade Works, there's just this strict stubbornness of, I am never going to become Archer. Which is also because I know if I accept that he's right, I will have nothing left. Which I fucking love. I think Shiro is such a good character. In Heaven's Feel, it really tests it of, okay, Shiro, you want to save people, right? Yeah. But you know that thing that's been like a motif throughout the first couple routes of to save someone means you let someone else die, right? Yeah. Well, this is the route where we really get into that, because this is the woman you love, Sakura Mato. She is killing people. Whether that's something she's aware that she's doing, whether it's she's being possessed, that's kind of its own conversation. But regardless, it is her fault that people are dying. And if you choose to save them, it means you are not saving Sakura. If you choose to save Sakura, it means you are not saving those people. Anyone that she kills, from now that you're aware of this, anyone who dies because of her, that's on you. And you wanted to save people. What the fuck are you gonna do? Now, I will be honest, it would be more compelling to me personally if I was more invested in the romance with Sakura, as I talked about it in Heaven's Feel. To me, their romance feels less of people who've known each other for a long time and have a good rapport and are finally kind of letting their walls down and are seeing each other as a romantic option, and it's something really sweet. And it comes across more of Shiro just woke up in this route and was horny as fuck. And I'm sorry, this is kind of what it is to me. Like, there's so many times where it has the most sex scenes, for sure. And there's a lot of times where he's just, like, looking at her boobs, or they're talking about her boobs. And, like, this just didn't happen as much in the other routes. Like, I feel like the relationship with Saber was built on this understanding of us being very similar people and trying to do our best regardless. And the relationship with Rin was the fact that you guys actually had really good chemistry and were working together. The relationship with Sakura is, damn, she has some big titties. There's more to it, but I felt like, unfortunately, this was the element that got emphasized more. At least for me, it was, and it made the relationship not as strong. So when Shiro is, I can't let the woman I love die, to me it reads more of, I can't let my fuck buddy die. And that's what he's betraying his ideal for. On paper it works, the execution for me didn't quite work as well. But I do still overall think the way he's written in that route is fantastic. And it's why Superhero is one of my favorite bad endings, which we'll get into those too a little bit later, is because it is just, that's one of the moments where I feel like this is almost more about, this is Shiro's ideal and not just Kiritsugu's anymore. But at the same time, even in that ending, you have both Ilya and Kirei saying, you have become Kiritsugu. And Ilya is like, I pity you for that, Shiro, because I know what the... Almost fucking started crying. Like, I felt the emotion coming out. Shit. Here's Ilya talking like, I pity you because I know how much that man suffered for what he was doing. And I hate to see that you've become the exact same thing. And Kirei's just going, you've become Kiritsugu. I know exactly what's about to happen. I can't wait to see this shit. This is gold. What a fucking bastard. I love Kirei. Sorry. Sorry about that long pause. That was essentially me trying to go, okay, let me get back to my point, realizing I've been kind of talking very out of order in the things I wanted to talk about, and then going, which part do I go back to? How do I fix this wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey ball of opinions and takes, most of which are probably bad takes? So I had to take a second, breathe. Fate Stay Night is about 4 things. the actual Grail War, the tragedy of the characters involved, the romance, and the writing of Shiro. I've talked about the Grail Wars, I've talked about the writing of Shiro. So to me, I think Unlimited Blade Works does it the best, slightly above Heaven's Feel, because I love the way he's written in Heaven's Feel, but I do think if his relationship with Sakura was stronger for me, it would have made his desire to save her over, to choose her over his ideal would have resonated with me a bit more. But like the crazy shit of him having Archer's arm is fantastic. The bring Ilya back, bring Ilya back, bring Ilya back because nothing is going to stop him from saving his sister is fan-fucking-tastic. The moments where he's in the middle of a conversation and then it's just like 6 hours later and he has no idea what the fuck happened in between that cut is amazing. I loved reading that shit. This poor bastard. It's great. In the Fate route, I think he's fine. I liked him more reading it than I did watching any of the adaptations. I felt like I did understand him more by getting into his head. I didn't love him, though, because like in Unlimited Blade Works, it's more like, okay, I also want to be strategic about how I do the war. And Heaven's Feel, he's a lot more proactive. Excuse me, when he's going on patrols with Saber. In the Fate route, it's, come on, like, let's not really do too much of anything. Like, you're a woman. I don't want you to get into a fight. I don't want to see you get hurt. And then in the other two routes, it's like, yo, Saber, like, let's fucking do shit. Let's kick ass. In Unlimited Blade Works, Shiro, you mean you don't want me to fight because you think you could take a servant? No, I'm not fucking retarded. I know I need you. Let's go. And then in Heaven's Feel, yo, Saber, you ready to go kick someone's ass? Let's go. And I just kind of think back to how he's written in the Fate where I'm like, yeah, this is, for me, Shiro easily at his weakest. But I guess going back to the tragedy, it is not just the tragedy of Shiro Emiya. You also have the tragedy of Iliasfeel Einsburn, who lost her father and is now meeting her adopted brother for the first time. And how this is someone she both wants to have a relationship with, because this is kind of the only family she has left, even though he is, for all intents and purposes, a stranger, but also this sense of, my father left, like, he betrayed the family, and he left me behind, and had you as my replacement. So if you look here on my list of people to kill, it's you, Dad, just in case, Rin, and then it's you a bunch more times. Like, she is the problem in the Fate route. And like in the other, because in Limited Blade Works, she's just kind of chilling, and then in Heaven's Feel, she's an active friend and ally. She is the problem in Fate, and I fucking love it. But regardless, there is that tragedy of her, you know, like, what's the word I wanted to use? Balancing those two emotions when it comes to Shiro. You have Rin. What I think is really interesting with Rin's tragedy is Unlimited Blade Works, which is her route, is her at her least tragic instead. I don't want to say least sympathetic, but it's because you actually see her doing shit in a Grail War with a servant, and she's kicking ass. You get to see how competent she is. And even when she talks about her backstory about, you know, like, my father was really strict. He wanted to make sure that I was a proper mage. I had to train my mind. I had to train my body. I had to make sure I was perfect at magic. I had to uphold I almost said the Tosaka family name and family dignity. But I embraced it. I loved it. I loved the fucking challenge. It's not really that tragic. But then you get the Fate route, where you keep all that in mind. I mean, you've read the Fate route first, but you get the sense that this is someone who's been planning for this for years. She is ready. She is excited. And then, like, the first day, she loses her servant. Because a dude got fucked up. She tried to save his life, went back to check on him to make sure she was okay, and because no good deed goes unpunished, her servant almost fucking died and was sidelined the entire route and couldn't do shit. And she has to watch this dumbass, because as much as I love Shiro, let's be honest, this dumbass get a top-tier servant that he can barely use that she wanted and just go, why? If I had that servant, I would have won the war already. I know it's only the first night. I would have won the war already. But my servant got fucked up by this thing. And this idiot who doesn't know any better, doesn't even know what he is doing. It's the most powerful card, and because she's in his hands, she's severely hampered. And it's like, I want to see her use her potential, and I want to see that with me, but I have to see that with you. And the entire time, I was like, I feel really bad for Rin. This must fucking suck for you, girl. And then reading Unlimited later, it's like, okay, this is what happens when a Rin is allowed to kick ass, and it's great to read. And then you get to Heaven's Feel, where you definitely get to see the tragedy of Rin because of her relationship with her sister, and how she's the opposite of Shiro. Shiro throughout Heaven's Feel is my ideal or the woman I love. I'm gonna pick the woman I love. And Rin throughout Heaven's Feel is my duty as a member of the Tosaka family and keeping the people of the city safe, or my sister. My duty is more important than my sister. And how she very clearly loves her sister and wants to, take care of her, wants to make sure she's all right. But once those lines get crossed, she realizes, I can't do that anymore. I'm not allowed to feel sorry for you. You've done too much shit, Sakura, that I just can't anymore, or at the very least, I refuse to. Even if I do feel sorry for you, I'm gonna kill that part of me. Because if you can't be stopped, if you can't be reasoned with, I will have to kill you too. Sakura's tragedy! Holy shit! This poor girl, this poor woman, her life is terrible. And then in Fate and Unlimited Blade Works, she's just kind of there, and she's fine. Nothing really happens. And like, oh, I just learned about your entire life. I'm sorry. Do you need a hug? Do you need some tea? Like, what do you need? Oh, I guess you need to murder people. Oh, why are you talking like that? Why are you like, I want more. I'm so hungry for more. Like, I want to like you, but you're starting to make it really hard. But there is a lot of tragedy to this character. And then, even with the main servants, not really with Ryder, because you don't ever get backstory from her, but you get it in the Fate route, you get it with Saber, and then in UBW, you really get it with Archer. Like, this is the tragedy of Shiro Emiya. It's almost kind of what it is. It's like, Saber is a tragic story, but it's also like, this is something that could also happen to Shiro. And Archer's story is, it fucking did happen to Shiro. So because of that, ranking the tragedy aspects, I would say Heaven's Feel is the most tragic. I would say the Fate route is next, solely because it's like Archer and Saber's backstories, I'd say, are almost like kind of equal in terms of tragedy, more or less. But one has Rin able to haul ass, the other has Rin just on the sideline going, well, my entire life was worthless and meant nothing. Like, I feel really fucking bad for you. I mentioned Shiro's writing already. So the other thing is just the romance, which, as I said earlier, to me, Rin's is the best. Saber's is second best. Sakura's, to me, is the weakest. I just don't like the way it was presented. One thing I understand is that's something the Heaven's Feel UFO table movies really emphasize, is less the horny aspect and more the, these are people who have been together for a long time and their bond is genuinely very close. That is one thing I do, like I said, I believe I said in the Heaven's Feel movie, or the Heaven's Feel video, I want to watch the Heaven's Feel movies. I don't know what I'll think of them. I know I'm going to think they look phenomenal, because UFO tape was gorgeous. I feel like I'll probably have a better opinion on Sakura from watching the movies. Which sounds kind of, it's like, yeah, the fact that I'm not going to be in her head is going to make me like her more, which is the exact opposite of Shiro. And like, yeah, that's kind of a problem, by the way. But regardless, I just kind of wanted to talk about that. Like, that's a lot of the stuff I think. So overall, I would say Unlimited Blade Works is my favorite route, because I think it does most of everything the best. I think the Fate route is a bit more consistent than Heaven's Feel, but I feel that Heaven's Feel has way higher peaks. The valleys are a bit lower as well. So I think I do like Heaven's Feel a little bit more, but I think it is kind of one of those, depending on my mood. I might say I like HF more, I might say I like the Fate route more, but Unlimited Blade Works is consistently the peak for me. But with all that out of the way, I want to just do some lists. A bunch of top fives, some of them are going to be longer, of just a lot of my favorite shit from the VN. Because I absolutely loved it, and I just want to gush about it. So here we go. First off, my top 5 favorite characters from the VN. So for all these, we're going to be going from the bottom to the top. So from 5 to 1, Kire, Archer, Rin, Ilia, Shiro. I should have done that backwards. Kire, Archer, Ilia, Rin, Shiro. My top 5 favorite songs from the VN. So again, that one from the Dean anime does not count because I never heard it in the VN and believe it is anime only. Number 5 is Pursuing Minds, which is the sex theme song. I will say, there's definitely songs I think are better than that one, but that one always gets a reaction out of me because I'm like, wait a second, the voice acting stopped. Oh god, the music started. Oh, I know what we're in for. It was just... the fact that it actively got a reaction out of me like every time, I feel like I kind of have to put it on there. Number 4 would be Ever Present Feeling, which is fucking beautiful. Number 3. This one might be cheating a bit, I'm not sure. It's Disillusion. So there is a piano version that does play in the VN. Because I played Rialto Nua. So it plays in Rialto Nua, so it is technically a version of it is in the VN, and it's fucking great. My understanding is that while Rialto Nua has different openings for all 3 routes, Disillusion was the opening, I don't know if it was for all 3 or just the Fate route, but it was the opening in the original visual novel. I did not experience it in my playthrough, but I believe it is technically in the VN. I don't know if it's the same version, like the same vocals and instrumental as the one from the Dean anime that is the opening, but that opening is impeccable. Like I said, like the Unmei no Yoru, I believe is the name, is a perfect encapsulation of the Fate route. So is that opening. Like just, again, like the music, like the weird, like it's so good. Like even when like the first time I watched Fate Stay Night, I was like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. This shit is dumb. These people are retarded. What is this shit? It always got me in the mood for it, though, and I was like, okay, I'm ready. And then I'd watch Shiro do anything and go, I fucking hate this guy. But regardless, since I think it's technically in the VN, I'm going to keep it here, but it might be cheating, so that's number 3. Number 2 is Mighty Wind, because Sparks Liner High is peak shit, and number 1 is Emiya. Emiya to me is my favorite Fate song. Like I said, Unmei no Yoru maybe beats it. It's between those two for my overall favorite song I've heard in any Fate media. But it's so good. Like the fact that the last episode, a good chunk of it is just kind of a... it's almost like a trailer for the Fate route. Kind of like, hey guys, we know this is... you only get this after Heaven's Feel, so you've read 2 whole routes since then, so... here's a reminder that the Fate route was really fucking cool. And while they're playing all this shit, like, there's different music that plays, and then there's a point where it just starts playing Emmy, and I'm like, oh man, yeah, a slideshow of, like, the best hits of the Fate route to Emmy makes it seem like the most epic shit ever. Because Emmy is, like, the most epic shit ever. It's fan-fucking-tastic. So, moving on, this is not a top 5, this is a top 6. It is ranking all of the endings. So I say air quotes because not the bad endings. So this is the Fate route ending, the last episode, which is like the other Fate route, and that's really a good way of saying it. Each route has 2 endings. It's ranking all 6 of those. So number 6 is the original ending to the Fate route, which I think is dog shit. Number 5 is Heaven's Feel's true ending. Number 4 is the last episode, which is the true ending of the Fate route. Number 3 would be the Heaven's Feel normal ending. Number 2 would be the UBW true ending. And number 1 would be the UBW good ending, because it's fantastic. Now, ranking my top 5 tearjerkers. So I will say there are only 2 scenes that made me cry while reading it, so those are my 1 and 2. The others are These are scenes that got me really emotional and got me kind of close. So number 5 would be... Okay, sorry, I misread something on my list. But number 5 is when Shiro decides to spare Saber. I believe that is in the Femme Fatale bad ending. And he just like kind of has these memories of all the time they spent together in Heaven's Feel. That got me really emotional. Number 4, Sparks Liner High. It is specifically the moment where Shiro's mind is just... It's not quite completely fried, but it's getting there, and he doesn't recognize Saber anymore, and then you go from seeing Black Saber and you see, like, original Saber sprites, like, overlapping with her. That actually got me super emotional. Number 3 would be in Heaven's Feel. These are all, like, from Heaven's Feel, by the way. Is Shiro walking home with Ilya, which she's singing, and he's like, man, we actually seem like a really nice family, and then their conversation after. Number 2, the 2 scenes that actually made me cry, is Ilya talking to Shiro at the park and like patting him on the shoulders and like, I'm here for you, I'm your ally, right before Superhero. And number 1 is the true ending of Heaven's Feel, specifically the part where Ilya dies, because fuck, that shit hurt. So moving on from that, my top 5 funny scenes. There's some really good ones. So number 5 for me is the scene in Heaven's Feel. It's like, yeah, Heaven's Feel has all the crying scenes. There's also a lot of funny ones too. Is after Shiro leaves the house to hang out with Ilya, he comes back and he gets accosted by Saber and Sakura, who both just start yelling at him like, you were injured, then you disappear, we don't know where the fuck you are. Well, you know what? If you're feeling so good that you can leave the house for several hours and not tell us, he wrote him a note, but he didn't actually tell, and not tell us, then you're fine enough for some training. What do you think, Saber? Oh, I think he's perfectly fine for training. And don't worry, Sakura, I'm gonna make sure it's the best damn training he's ever gotten. Like, I thought that scene was hysterical. Number 4, the batting cages from Unlimited Blade Works. The 3-way date between Saber, Rin, and Shiro. There's a point where Shiro's like, okay, so we started playing in the batting cages and Saber kept losing and she was getting incredibly pouty. And because she's a sore loser, we just had to keep repeating the batting cages. So now I feel exhausted because I kept winning, because if I held back, she'd get even more mad. That was gold. Number 3, speaking of Saber and Unlimited Blade Works, the scene where she follows Shiro home. Or excuse me, not follows him home, when she's following him to school, and Shiro the entire time is just, Saber, please, just stay home. School is safe. You don't need to follow me. No, I'm gonna follow you. I want to make sure my master is safe. Saber, I'm ordering you to stay home. No, you don't, because no master would actually say anything that's stupid. So I can only assume that my master is not actually giving me this order because of how fucking stupid it is. It's impeccable. Number 2, the Mapo Tofu scene. It is the funniest non-sex scene in the entire game, and even then, it might be even funnier than some of those. Which, of course, means number 1 is... It's kind of the sex scenes in general, but it's the first one. The first one in the Fate route is the hardest I laughed in the entire VN. A lot of it is the actual stuff. It's a combination of things. It's the actual stuff that happens and how, like, unexpectedly graphic it is. It's the how out of nowhere it comes. Because I knew that this is where it happened. I'd seen the anime, I'd seen the weird CG dragon, and by the way, like, the sex scene is way funnier than the CG dragon. So, like, I know it's here. It's like, oh man, we've been running for our lives. Archer is dead. Ilya is terrifying. This might be the last night that we're all alive. It's like, Shiro is not feeling well. Rin is fine, but she can't take on Berserker. The only one that can is Saber, but Saber is just running on fumes. Well, Shiro, Amagus' semen is a cluster of magic. It's so hard to say it with a straight face. You can just sleep with your servant and fill her with your magic cum. So, while Elia's God knows where doing God knows what, hunting them down to murder them. They have a fucking orgy. It's so funny. It is impeccable. I know that some of the other scenes, like in Heaven's Feel, the one with Rin in Heaven's Feel is hysterical. I think the actual writing in that one is funnier than the first one, but the first one is just, it's like a scene from The Room. I think that's really what it is. I mean, all the sex scenes are like that. They're just like scenes from The Room. But it's the whole, how out of nowhere it is, the insane shit that people are saying, and then the insane shit that people are saying and doing while they're having sex. It's incredible. It is so fucking funny. No pun intended, but it's so fucking funny. So now we're going to move on to a couple top 10 lists. So this is my top 10 favorite bad endings. Actually, is that 10? Let me check this. It actually might be a top... Yes, actually. I don't know how to count or read. This is not a top 10. It is a top 11. Because I had a top 10 and I was like, well, I forgot one that's actually pretty higher on the list. I forgot to write it down. But I don't want to take anything off, so let's just do this. So from 11 to 1 in terms of my favorite bad endings. Hypnos, which is the one where Issei goes crazy. Killer, which is the one where Kuzuki, like, explodes Rin's head. Compassion, which is where... so those last two were Unlimited Blade Works. Compassion is Heaven's Feel, where you spare Saber, and she mercy kills Shiro. Femme Fatale, which is the final bad ending, where Sakura... It's when Sakura lost all of my sympathy, like 1,000%. And I have to say, it's so memorable to me. It's not a favorite because I'm like, whoa, this is so cool, or like, holy shit, this is immaculate. It made me just genuinely hate this character so much. I can't put it higher, but it's gotta be on here. Dress of Heaven is number 6, which I believe is the one where, in the Fate route, where Ilia makes a contract with Shiro and then takes his soul, because that one's really creepy to me. I love it. Number 5 is Gios. Is that 5? 5, 4, 3? Yeah. Number 5 is Gios, which is the one where if you made a contract with Rin, Shiro decides, do I pick the woman I love or my ideal? I'm going to pick the woman I love. And then Rin says, I'm still not going to let you stop me. And being unable to save her. To me, the way I understand it is, Shiro chose the woman he loved over his ideal, so he lost that. And then he lost the woman he loved right after and was unable to save her. So it is a moment where he truly lost everything, and it is devastating. Number 4, Sword and Magic. This is the one in Unlimited Blade Works where Shiro reveals himself a little too early in the church, and Kuzuki and Caster are like, well, let's take a quick head count. Shiro, Rin, Archer, that's 3. Me, Caster, that's 2. But we've got Saber over here, and while she is resisting, and we weren't really going to use her if it was just a 2v2, now that you've got a whole third person, let's make this fair. So they pull out Saber, and then the narration is just like, yeah, like, they got attacked by Saber, Caster, and Kuzuki. What the fuck do you think happened? Like, you don't even see them die, and then Archer, as soon as Shiro comes out, he's just kind of like, why did you do that? I had a plan. I was gonna do something and I was gonna get Rin out of this. I knew you were here, dumbass. You were all gonna be able to escape. But because you did that, now we lose. Now we die. And I think it's really cool. Number 4, Girl Rhapsody. This is from the Fate route, where it's during Saber's fight with Berserker, you can either protect Saber or you can run. This happens if you run. So Rin goes after you and he's like, dude, sure, what the fuck are you doing? You're supposed to, like, not be in danger, but you're also supposed to be there with your servant. You know, you can supply mana, you can use a command spell. What is wrong with you? And then Berserker just shows up and kills her. and then takes Shiro and fucking yeets him like 20 yards. Shiro is fucked up. And then she's dead. Ilia starts yelling at Berserker. I think it actually says she's like smacking him. You know that scene from Cats Don't Dance when Darla Dimple's talking to him, like, he's so bad sometimes. Oh. It's basically that. She's like, stupid servant. I should take all of your lives and just end them right now. I told you not to kill him. I want him alive. I think she also name drops Kiritsugu, and I think it's the only time in the Fate route she references him as well. She's like, I got a plan. Oh my God. You better pray that he's still alive, Berserker, or I will end all of your lives one by one as slowly as possible, you big stupid. Oh, okay, he's alive. Okay, I take it back, Berserker. I love you. Now I get to play. It's badass, creepy, and funny all at the same time. It's really, really good. Number 3, also from the Fate route, is That Which Cannot Be Changed, which is you did not meet a high enough affection rate with Saber, which I got on my first attempt just playing the route normally. Whoops. Where when Kirei offers her the Holy Grail and says, kill your master, I'll give it to you, Saber has a moment of weakness, and in that moment of weakness, her body just acts and she kills Shiro. I love that ending. Until Heaven's Feel, it was my favorite. Like, by far. I love that it's not just, Shiro picked something stupid, and so he fucked around and found out it was, this is a result of your relationship or lack thereof with your servant. That's so interesting to me, and I think it's just so fucking cool. Number 2 is Superhero. Kind of similar to That Which Cannot Be Changed. What I love about Superhero, again, is not just you fucked around and found out. This is a very possible, genuine ending for the story of Emi Ashiro. And it's fucking tragic. You have Ilia pitying him for becoming Kiritsugu. You have Kirei mocking him for becoming Kiritsugu. And you have the narration just, we don't even need to talk about what happened next. Reader, you know what happened next. He turned his mind to steel and became a superhero. Then you get the Tiger Dojos, which I don't have a ranking of my favorite Tiger Dojos because I don't remember like what happens in specific dojos. I just collectively, I fucking love them. That's one that sticks out to me though. Because there's no jokes, there's no like crazy bullshit going on. It's just Taiga. And it kind of is what it is. That's definitely a possible ending. And then Ilia just being quiet for a moment. You idiot. And then you go back to the loading screen. It hits really hard. Like, I'm actually like tearing up a little bit. I can't lie. And then number 1 is Sparks Ladder High, because of course it's Sparks Ladder High. It's perfect. You can make an argument that it's not a bad ending because it doesn't say bad end or dead end at the end. It just says end. But it has a Tiger Dojo. It's listed with the bad ending, so it technically counts here and not in the other list. If I put it in the other list, it would be number 1. I'll say it like that. Like, I might put it as number 2 under the Unlimited Blade Works true ending. Or excuse me, the Unlimited Blade Works good ending. Because as an ending, I like that one more. But just as an overall scene, Sparks Ladder High like fucking clears almost everything in the entire VN. It's amazing. It is hype. What I love is how, I talked about this in the Heaven's Feel video, so I don't super want to rehash everything I say, as I probably will end up doing so anyways. Because that's just how I am. Sparks feels like the ending of Fate Stay Night. Like, felt me getting really emotional for a second. Because it is Shiro versus Saber. And it's why the Rider fight to me doesn't work as well. I just don't think it's as cool. But this is Shiro taking all of that training with Saber and using it. And, like, I know how you fight. I know how I need to fight. Also because he has archers. So it's like, that's the thing. Like, in terms of the Fate route, it is the relationship with Saber feels like it is being put to the test for the final time. As well as that recurring joke in the Fate route of, hey, Saber, do you know a super move I can use to beat a servant in one attack? Which is what he does. It follows up on Unlimited Blade Works because of Shiro understanding my magic is projection, which is also something in the Fate route. But that's the route that really goes into it. Like, this is how your magic works. Into knowing who Archer is, why their bond is so strong, why he's able to, like, do his shit, his love of the swords. Was it Kansho and Byakuya, I think is what their names are? And, like, him mastering those fucking swords and mastering Archer. And it's awesome. And it's the, like, culmination of Heaven's Feel because it's in Heaven's Feel. It is the ending of the route. And I love that. It's like, yeah, Rin, you go take care of Sakura. I've got to go take care of this. And Ryder being there, just to me, doesn't feel earned in the actual... I mean, everything is canon, so I can't say canon. But in the other two endings, like, to progress through the route, she feels like she's just the third wheel. Like, even reading the dialogue, it kind of feels like, oh yeah, Ryder's here, so we just kind of have to make her talk. Whereas in Sparks, it's Shiro and Saber. They know each other. They're close. They don't want to be here. But they have to, and they know the other isn't going to back down. It feels more natural, and it feels like it has more weight to it. It is phenomenal. And the song that plays is incredible, and the actual fighting is really cool. And like I said, it almost made me cry as Shiro's mind is being fried. It's impeccable. So now let's go ahead and get into the next top 11, which is just my favorite fights. My top 11 fights from the VN. Number 11 is Gilgamesh versus Berserker. Number 10 is Shiro and Rin versus Kuzuki and Caster. Not, of course, when they're fighting in the streets. This is specifically when they're fighting in the church, where Shiro's like, my job... Oh, by the way, Gil and Berserker, Unlimited Blade Works is also from Unlimited Blade Works. It's when Shiro's job is like, I just have to distract him to keep him away from Rin while Rin is having a magic duel with Caster, loses the magic duel, and then goes, that was my trap card, because I knew I would lose, because I'm not going to beat a fucking Caster servant. I'm not stupid. I'm not Shiro over here. But I knew you would drop your guard and you would get too cocky. And the second you did that, Rin just runs up and just starts throwing hands. And I kind of love how in the Fate route... Shiro's thing is like, I want to be strong enough to fight a servant, and everyone says, no, you can't, that's fucking stupid. And as the route goes on, it becomes impeccably clear that, no, he can't, that's fucking stupid. Then you read Unlimited Blade Works, you're like, no, that's just what people are doing in this route, it's just humans fighting servants, and it works, it feels like it makes sense, it's awesome. But I love that shit. Next, I would say is... the Fate route fight between Shiro, Saber, and Gilgamesh. So not the one in the climax, but it's when Gil shows up and is like fucking them up, and then they summon Caliburn again, and they actually hurt him. Which, something, I don't know if I ever mentioned this in my other videos. Fate is the only route where Gil is wearing his armor. He never does it in the other two. It's something I noticed. The next is, that's what, 11, 10, 9, 8. So number 8 would be the fight between Rin and Sakura at the end of Heaven's Feel with the, my sword is taking the magic from parallel universes, so I have infinite magic. Sure, dog. I don't care. It's fucking dope. Number 7 is the Unlimited Blade Works fight between Archer and Caster at Ryudo Temple. That is fucking cool. Then I would say number 5... Wait. No, that's number 6. Sorry, I didn't write these as numbers. I wrote these as letters because my notes are very much in an outline. So I see a G and I'm like, that's a 6. Wait, but that was number 7. Oh shit, that's not a 6. That's a G. So E, so number 6. This is the Shiro Gilgamesh fight from Unlimited Blade Works. Because I honestly think the fight itself is okay. The scene right before it, which is the, like, there's no rule that says a fake can't surpass the original. Here I come, King of Heroes. Do you have enough weapons in stock? That is one of my favorite moments in the entire VN. But then you transition into something else. It's either Rin's shit with the Grail, or it's Saber's fight with, with Kojiro, which is not on this list. It was close. If I were to add another fight, it definitely would have been that one. I feel like if the stakes felt higher, because the fight, like the actual choreography, I guess I'll go and talk about it real quick then. The choreography of the fight is dope as hell. I love how it is like an old Western, but it's a samurai duel. Fucking cool. But as I was reading, I was like, okay, Rin's final thing is dealing with the Grail. That makes sense. I buy that. Shiro's thing is dealing with Gilgamesh, because he's a fucking problem. And the way they fight actually makes them kind of counters to each other. That makes sense. This feels fitting for the climax. Kojiro's just a dude who's here. I'm like, I don't really feel like, man, this is a big climactic fight. Like, look at the Fate route where it's Saber and Gil, the last two servants, the two last servants of the previous war who never got to finish their shit. Possibly the two strongest servants in Fate canon. Okay, I mean, I don't think Saber's that high. Gilgamesh probably is. It feels suiting. I don't like how that sounded. But it does feel suitable. It's a fitting ending. Shiro and Kirei. This is the guy who killed my father and cursed him and is now trying to, like, fuck up the world. Or at least, like, fuck up the city. I'm going to stop him. It feels fitting as a climax. And then in Heaven's Feel, Shiro and Sakura. Or, not Shiro and Sakura. Rin and Sakura. Shiro and Kirei. Which, spoiler, that's going to be fucking high on this list. All feel like really fighting fights for the climax. Ryder and Saber, not quite. It's like, in terms of the stakes, yes. But if Ryder had more actual screen time or more of a relationship with Shiro, I think I would have liked it more. But the Saber Kojiro one is just like, yeah, this is cool. It just doesn't feel climaxy to me, though, which is why it's not on the list proper. But Shiro and Gilgamesh, the actual fight, I think, is fine. It's more just the shit that happens a few scenes prior. It's like the hype of the fight makes it a little higher on the list, but the fight itself I don't think is as good as some of these others. So the number 5 is the Kuzuki Saber fight from Unlimited Blade Works, where he's just throwing hands and kicking her ass. This fight was awesome to read, especially because it's from Saber's perspective. She's like, what the fuck? This is a normal dude. I am a servant. I am incredibly strong. And if it wasn't for my, like, battle-hardened instincts, I would have died 10 times over. And even then, I'm still almost dying. What the hell? It's so fucking cool. Cool. I love Fate Zero so much. Number 4 would be the Saber Rider fight from the Fate route when they're, as I like to say, the Kingdom Hearts shit, when they're running up the skyscraper. Because the one thing I think is really cool in their Heaven's Feel fight is when they both just use their Noble Phantasms against it. I believe I said this in my Heaven's Feel video as well. Is when they use their Noble Phantasms at each other. It's cool. But in the Fate route, not only do they do that, they do it better because it is the debut of Excalibur. And on top of that, it's not just Ryder firing a Kamehameha. So, like, I was doing that, but my hands are off screen. She's actually on her Pegasus, and she's fucking dive-bombing her. Like, it's so cool. And you feel the fact that Saber's like, I'm getting my ass kicked. I have to bring out the trump card. It's so epic, man. I know I keep saying, like, it's so cool, it's so epic, but, like, you feel it in that fight. And it's like, it's a top 4 for sure. Number 3, the Shiro... I almost said like Shirei. Shirei, Kiro. Oh gosh, that sounds weird. But the Shiro Kirei fight at the end of Heaven's Feel, it's just two dudes throwing hands. I'm about to die. You're about to die. But your goal, Shiro, is to stop that thing from being born because of what you expect it to do. My goal is to see it be born because I want to know what it will do. You're dying and I'm dying. We've only got a few minutes left. But let's give it everything we've got. And Kirei, fucking dies like mid-punch. You're like, oh, this is impeccable shit. This is wonderful. I love this. Number 2, favorite fight. Showing up again on the list. Spark Slider High. The Shiro Saber duel. It is amazing. And my number 1 fight is the Shiro Archer duel from Unlimited Blade Works. because holy fuck, I remember watching it in the anime and going, I think this is stupid. I am not getting into their philosophy at all. It just feels like they're having this very cyclical conversation, and eventually Shiro just kind of won out, and I don't really buy it. What I think makes it really work in the VN is that they're not talking. There is still a little bit of dialogue, but it is mostly just, this is Shiro's perspective of it. This is Archer's perspective of it, watching it, and how as they're fighting and they're going, and he's seeing how Shiro's body is just breaking, like how his arms are clearly broken. They're like barely fucking attached, but they're still swinging because he can't give up. And he's like, how? How is he still fighting? How is he still going? How far can he go? How far can I go? Because I know why he's still fighting, because he's me, and I know what it's like to be that stubborn little shit. But I also know what it's like to have that spark in me. Can you beat me? Can you actually get the ending that I couldn't? I want to see it happen. That was the moment where Shiro became my favorite character. And it was just this, like, man, I remember watching the anime and thinking this is incredible, and then getting to that scene, and it felt like everything collapsed. And then I got to it in the VN, and I was like, this is the make or break moment, this is the make or break moment. Oh, it's the best moment of the VN so far. Oh, Unlimited Blade Works really is peak. So those are my favorite fights. So the last thing would be just my favorite moments from the VN, which was gonna be a top 10 list, and I just kept remembering shit, and I'm like, I'm not gonna cut anything, I'm just gonna keep adding. So I had it as a top 15, and then before I started filming, I remembered another scene that I just forgot to include. I was like, oh shit, I forgot about that. That one's really cool. So I'm not exactly sure where I would put it, but it's 9 Lives Blade Works. I didn't even think about it. And I feel really dumb for not thinking about it. Because I said in the Heaven's Feel video, like, when I talk about my favorite fights, I think the actual fight it's not very good. It's just Shiro summons something, slash, and that's it. But it's the build up to it. That whole, like, the way that fucking weird kaleidoscopic prism in his mind, as his body and his mind are breaking, and then he sees Archer right in front of him, just standing there with the wind at his back. Try to keep up, okay? Fuck you, Archer! You try to keep up with me! And then Emiya starts playing, and then he summons Berserker. Like, it's the build up to it is so fucking cool. The fight itself, yeah. As a moment, it would be on here somewhere. I'm not sure exactly which one would go down, which one would go up. So we'll just say it's a top 16. It's currently number 16, but it would probably be a little bit higher. My other favorite moments, so for number 15 is your strong Berserker scene in Unlimited Blade Works between Ilya and Berserker. That one also almost made me cry. Not as much as the Heaven Feel. So if you've noticed, essentially, like, if something's a tearjerker, it's generally it's basically in Heaven's Feel, but it's either an Ilya scene or a Saber scene. So number 14 would be... I wrote it as both times that Saber just obliterates Rider. So on the one hand, it happens in the Fate route, which is their fight, which I think is awesome when she first uses Excalibur. But also the scene in Heaven's Feel, which this almost made it onto my favorite, like, just funny shit scenes, is the fight with Rider and Shinji when they just, like, find them really early on, and then Shinji's talking all that shit, sends Rider out, and then Rider's, like, doing all this cool shit, and then Saber just one-shots her, and then just kind of, like, stares at Shinji like, what? That it? You were talking about good shit a second ago. I thought you were gonna amount to something. It's so funny. It's so savage. Like, it might be a little bit cheating because I'm talking about 2 scenes, but, like, both times that happened are fucking peak. So that's number 14. Number 13, Gilgamesh's introduction in the Fate route, where he's like, you're doing this shit with Caster. Caster's being all creepy. Gilgamesh just shows up, starts talking to Saber, and like, oh right, you're also here, but you don't deserve to be here. And then unleashes the Gate of Babylon on Caster. That shit is incredible. Number 12 would be my favorite choice. Bring Ilya back. Bring Ilya back. Bring Ilya back. Number 12 is the first sex scene. It's the funniest scene in the entire game. It is the only sex scene that is on here, but it made me laugh so hard. It still makes me laugh thinking about it. It's right there. I think that's number 11, number 12. The scene right above it is the Mapo tofu scene. Now, I know earlier I said the first sex scene I think is funnier than the tofu scene, and I will still stand by that. However, I think the tofu scene is overall a better scene because not only is it funny as hell, it also is the moment where the reader realizes, oh, Kirei is taking his job seriously in this route as the overseer. That's how bad things have gotten. And also, I love the insight it gives to Kirei's character. Because in the other routes, not really Unlimited Blade Works, because Kirei's just not a factor. That's the one thing about Unlimited Blade Works. Like, I love this route. It does everything right. Man, we barely get any Ilya. Man, we barely get any Kirei. And Shinji survives. So even UBW isn't perfect. But, I believe we do hear in the Fate route that's like, yeah, Kirei enjoys the suffering of others. He is a terrible person. He's a sadist. But in the tofu scene, you see that it includes his own suffering as well, and it's a really clever because it is not introducing this concept to the viewer because you've theoretically already read the Fate route. But it's a really cool and interesting way to introduce it to Shiro, who's like, yeah, like, this food is so spicy it was made by devils. A human being can't enjoy this. As more steaming curry is being served to him. Kuka. It's so funny. Let's see, the Mapo tofu scene. What was that? Was that 10? Hold on, let me actually count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so I believe that was number 10. So number 9, also a Kirei scene, is Yorokobe Shonen. Rejoice, boy. I believe the UBW anime, the translation was, you ought to be rejoicing, boy. I love that scene. I love that line. It brings me so much joy. Like, anytime now, Yorokobe has now become one of those anime words where it's a Japanese where I don't want to be like, yeah, all Japanese shit is anime. But, like, whenever I hear it in an anime, I just kind of perk up a little bit. Like, anytime I now hear the word kiseki, I just go, ooh, I know that one. I know what that means. I love that shit. The next one, which is also a Kirei scene, like we had a Kirei trilogy, is just the Kirei Shiro fight at the end of Heaven's Feel. It's impeccable. I fucking love it. I believe that now puts us at 7, which is Sakura killing Zoken. By that point in the VN, I didn't really like Sakura. My dislike for her outweighed my pity at that point, if I am being honest. Like I said in my Heaven's Feel video, to me at that point, you have stopped being the victim. However, I took great pleasure in just hearing Zoken's... It wasn't really screams, it was like his pleas. I sound fucking evil. It's like, I enjoyed listening to him squeal. I enjoyed his suffering. But fuck that guy. I think anyone who's read Heaven's Feel, like, yeah, you can have this. It's okay to enjoy that moment. I was like, yeah, this one, I don't really like you anymore, Sakura, but you can have this. Guilt-free, no bullshit. This one's free. After that, I believe this is number 6. It's The Walk Home with Ilya. Number 5 is the Unlimited... from Heaven's Feel. Number 5 is the Unlimited Blade Works Good Ending. Number 4 is a combination of scenes. So it's a little bit cheating, but it's all like, this happens, and then this happens immediately after. It's the Ilya scene in the park in Heaven's Feel, the one I say, like, made me fucking cry. Immediately followed by Superhero and or Gios. Specifically Superhero. Like, I think with Gios, it would maybe be a little bit lower on the list, but still on here. But that combination of, I was fucking crying, and then I read Superhero. Ooh, that one hurt. That one hurt a lot. So that one's number 4. Number 3 is Here I Come, King of Heroes. Do you have enough weapons in stock? I fucking love that shit. It is so hype. To me, I really feel like if there wasn't a scene change, if it was just all that hype shit, you're in Unlimited Blade Works after Shiro's done the chant, you've got Emiya playing in the background, you've got that fucking cool CG of Shiro standing amongst the Hill of Swords. He's saying his line about how a fake can surpass the original, and you get the CG of the close-up, he's got like the lines on his face like he's the fucking demi-fiend, and he says that. If it went right into the fight would be higher on the list, like no question. Because, man, that hype scene is so good. And then my top 2 scenes, as you could probably fucking guess, number 2 is Sparks Later On, and number 1 is the Shiro Archer fight. Those are my 2 favorite moments of the VN, man. So that's an hour. It's an hour and 5 minutes of me talking about Fate Stay Night. These are the things that I think the VN is trying to be about. This is how I kind of feel every route does in portraying those ideas. Again, I don't really want to say romance is a theme per se, but it is something that it is like a plot point, I guess. And like the Grail War, I wouldn't say that's a theme, but it is the plot. So like the plot, some of the different themes, some of the different kind of like sub things going on. And then here's just a list of some of my favorite shit because I loved it. So I guess my kind of my parting thought on the VN, I am so fucking glad I read it because I loved it. Clearly, Unlimited Blade Works is my favorite route. Although, when you look at a lot of my favorite scenes and shit that made me cry, like, Heaven's Feel has a lot of those. But Heaven's Feel, to me, it's too uneven because I did not get into the heroine. I did not get into the romance with her. And I actually thought, like, most of the fights, with the exception of a few near the end, aren't that good. Unlimited Blade Works across the board, I think is just better. But I genuinely loved reading all 3 of these. It's way better than watching the adaptations. Well, I guess I can't really say the Heaven's Feel movies yet, but the Dean Fate anime is kind of a mess. Because, like, even when I was reading the VN, I was like, wait a second. The fight with Rin at the school is only in Unlimited Blade Works? Why was it in the Fate Route anime? That doesn't make any sense. Wait, like using Sakura as a whole? Yeah, that only happened in Heaven's Feel. Why was it in the fucking Fate Route anime? What? Caster being a problem is not in the Fate Route aside from one scene. What the hell? I really want to rewatch it. Be like, okay, how is it actually as an adaptation of the Fate Route? And also, yeah, how much bullshit is just from the other routes? But I really liked reading them all. I did such a 180 on Shiro. He went from a character I just did not like and thought was annoying to being my favorite character. That's really it. If you've read the VN, I hope you loved it as much as I did, if not more. Curious to know, like, what are some of your favorite routes? Who are some of your favorite characters, favorite scenes? Whether they be fights, things that made you cry, things that just made you laugh. What do you think of the sex scenes? Oh, so funny. If you haven't read the VN, sorry for spoiling the entire thing. But I went into it knowing a good amount of what was going to happen. Because I had seen adaptations of Fate and Unlimited Blade Works. And I'd seen some of the I think I'd seen the first 2 Heaven's Feel movies. So I had an idea, but I didn't super remember them either. It's still worth it knowing where it goes. And I hope you have a really good time with it. As for me, I certainly did. It was, of all the things I wanted to do this year, like my list of media, like this is a game I need to play, this is a book I want to read, etc., etc. Fate was probably number 1 of like, I want to do this. And I'm really glad it met all my expectations.